Good evening, everyone. My name is Jimmy Watkins, and I am the Public Programs Coordinator at the Humanities Council of Washington, D.C. Founded in 1980, Humanities DC aims to enrich the quality of life, foster intellectual stimulation, and promote cross-cultural understanding and appreciation of local history in all neighborhoods of the district through humanities programs and grants. This event is a part of our Humanitini's Curator Grant, where each curator creates a public humanities program based on their research or area of expertise. This is the first Humanitini of our grant cycle, and we are starting off with a bang. Tonight's moderator is Jordan Campbell, a DC-based actor, scholar, and educator. He currently serves as the Director of Research and Knowledge at Creative Generation, an arts consultancy that works at the intersection of the arts, youth, and social justice. In this role, he oversees a team of colleagues, organizational strategy, and a portfolio of projects focused on research, knowledge, and professional development. Today, his career centers on ensuring access to the rich experiences he had as a youth growing up in his rural hometown. In a career that crosses the fields of the performing arts, education, research, and policy, Jordan leverages his interdisciplinary background to foster constructive social impact and amplify the voices of marginalized youth. As an actor, Jordan has performed to audiences worldwide, including shows at the John F. Kennedy Center, Carnegie Hall, and on US and international Broadway tours. As an educator, Jordan has instructed courses on diverse topics related to arts and culture in the US, India, Ghana, and China. He also occasionally serves as a teaching artist, director, and acting coach for various regional theaters and arts organizations. Following his acting class under the tutelage of Anna DeVere Smith, Jordan created a justice-driven documentary theater strategy through Harvard University, which has been piloted in schools globally. As a researcher, Jordan has authored original research on topics ranging from mentorship models to musical theater history. And as a consultant, Jordan has collaborated with several arts and cultural organizations and global NGOs on strategic planning, instructional design, content development, implementation, and program evaluation. He served in the Obama White House as a staff point person on arts and education issues, has collaborated with the Department of Education on arts-related grant programs, and has worked on numerous progressive US political campaigns as a voice for the arts and cultural sector. He holds a Master's of Education from the Harvard Graduate School of Education and a BFA in musical theater and BA in political science from Western Kentucky University. Go Big Red. And with that, I welcome you to Creative Justice, the local and national impact of DC youth artists activists. Jordan Campbell, the world is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Jimmy. I want you to always read my bio because that made me feel nice. Thank you for your enthusiasm and knowing Big Red. Good for you. He's a great mascot. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Jordan Campbell, and I am so excited to be the curator and moderator for this event. I'm really glad you're joining us. This has been a labor of love for me. It's been many months in process to make this event happen, and I'm very, very excited to have you here. To give you a little bit of background on this event, my research really stems from my body of research, which intersects youth, art, and justice, and particularly with an eye toward DC young people. So in the social movements of recent past and of the 20th and 21st century especially, youth artist activists in DC, in the District of Columbia, have had a profound influence on bending the arc of justice. And due to our unique role in the district as the nation's capital, protests, many of them led by young people from Washington, D.C., and their artistic contributions have a dual impact. So these young activists' endeavors are commenting on local challenges in the district, everything from housing to violence, gun control, education, homelessness, and more, while also standing on those front lines of global movements and national movements and appearing in national media, right in their own backyards, right in their communities. So this panel tonight, I am so excited to have these amazing panelists. We're going to be exploring and talking about the strengths, the challenges, and the impacts of young people who are interested in social justice and social change, primarily centering our creative our conversations on creative contributions of young people in the District of Columbia in ways that have codified, substantive, local, and often national change. So I'm so thrilled to introduce all of our panelists tonight. The first one I'll mention is Fly Zaya. Say hello, Fly Zaya.
Hi, everyone. Hi.
Washington, DC-based MC Fly Zaya has been honing her love for music since age 2. Only being 10 years old, Zaya's list of accomplishments stands out. Zaya's love for hip hop and its culture has most recently gotten her named as one of the Kennedy Center's next 50 cultural leaders. She also received the DC Mayor's Art Award for Excellence in Youth Creativity, while also managing to grace a billboard in front of the Smithsonian's Arts and Industries building. I saw that and I thought of you when I saw you up there. Zaya has been a featured guest on various DC news stations and music played on major radio stations in the DMV, some of which you'll hear in just a few minutes. Zaya's hard work hasn't gone unnoticed, and she's worked her way to grace stages with Grammy-nominated, amazing lyricist Rhapsody, and also the legendary Big Daddy Kane. Although young, Zaya serves as a leader in the community and in her craft. She's always striving to live her dreams and make other people believe they can too through her words. So excited to have you, Fly Zaya. All right, Jonathan B. Tucker is another one of our panelists. Say hello, Jonathan.
Hey, y'all. I'm very happy to be here.
JBT is a writer, educator, performer, and poet based in Washington, D.C. Sharing his work at schools, theaters, and venues around the world, he has performed in Cape Town, Boston, London, New York City, Pretoria, Stockholm, Seattle, and at the Kennedy Center and the South African State Theater. Committed to empowering the next generation of artists and activists, for over 18 years, he has been teaching and mentoring young people, creating outstanding opportunities for poets around the world. Awesome. Next up is Lauren Renford. Say hello, Lauren.
Hi, everyone.
Lauren Renford co-founded Pathways to Power, a student-led activist group formed after 2 of her fellow students were killed by gun violence. Lauren turned her grief into power and has dedicated much of her time advocating for a safer DC. During her junior year, she fundraised for a mural, The Limestone of Lost Legacies, which you'll see here in a moment, honoring 5 teens who were killed by gun violence. She uses her voice to speak out against city violence that, quote, almost always leaves mothers and communities to mourn children, end quote. Lauren has given a TED Talk about her experience and has visited different schools in DC to rally young people to become advocates against gun violence. Lauren is currently a rising senior at the George Washington University studying public health. And as gun violence continues to be a hot button issue in the District of Columbia and across the nation, plan to see Lauren leading the conversation. I love that. All right, and last but certainly not least, we have Jade Jones. Hello, Jade.
Hello, how's it going, everybody?
Also known as Liddy Official. So check Jade out online. Jade is a Helen Hayes nominated performer, rapper, and educator. Jade recently garnered international attention as Belle from Only Theater Center's critically acclaimed production of Disney's Beauty and the Beast, being featured in People magazine and MSNBC. You can check Jade out at Liddy Official on Instagram. So thank you all so much for being here, all of my panelists. I'm so excited to talk to you. And before we jump into our conversation, we're actually going to watch a video that really kind of encapsulates what we're talking about here. So please enjoy this video about youth artist activists in the District of Columbia. Can everybody see my screen?
Change, especially change that requires legislative solutions, will not occur easily given our vast, inherently disharmonious, and increasingly polarized country. Change will only occur if we make the highest, best, and most peaceful use of the First Amendment.
Part of it is also for me trying to find the young people who need somebody and the young activists who are ready to make a difference. There's a lot of young people in the city who with just, one more mentor or just one more person who cares about them, their lives could go a completely different way. Because I've seen the power that I have to be that influence, it feels like a duty to me that I have to do.
I am America. I salute at a flag that you say isn't mine. I live in a nation that the slaves outlined, and I walk on the soil, the opportunity left behind. I am America.
I have to show more and more people. And okay, I've convinced some people, I need to keep convincing everyone else that this is important, that poetry is good for you. And that's like a phrase I keep coming back to, is poetry is good for you. Like, I'm Dr. Tucker and I prescribe poetry.
But we are still here, still laughing, still growing.
I encourage all the youth out there to continue to use your voice and creative outlets to speak up and speak out, to express your hopes, dreams, goals, and your fears, and to continue to find courage through the power of the pen, the pencil, the microphone, and the paintbrush.
I'd much rather be a Godzilla, King Kong,
What we are really neglecting is a space and time to create our new normal. When you do, you will begin to realize that your fire burns differently now. You may stand a little taller with your shoulders up and your head held high.
There is definitely healing properties to art, and I hope that this remains a space of healing.
I first wanted to humanize victims.
Lauren and an organization she co-founded called Pathways to Power at Thurgood Marshall High School raised $13,000 to fund the project.
You may even realize that you are becoming more vocal about the things that used to silence you.
For the family tree to stop growing, you gotta rip it from its cultural roots, tear away from what was once growth. She planted my roots in stolen soil and called it America.
Please lead us. Thank you.
Pretty inspiring stuff, huh? I'm gonna give a big yes. And many of you were featured in that, and we're gonna be talking about some of those things in just a moment, but before we dive in, we have one more video to watch, and you actually saw part of it in that clip, but our Attorney General of the District of Columbia, Carl Racine, has so graciously sent us a video to congratulate all of you and to welcome us to this conversation. So we're now going to hear a word from the Attorney General of the District of Columbia, Carl Racine.
Hi everyone, I'm Carl Racine, the Attorney General for the District of Columbia. It's a pleasure and honor to kick off tonight's panel. Thank you, Jordan, for inviting the Office of Attorney General, and I must emphasize how much we've enjoyed working with you and your friends in the creative art industry throughout the years. I was especially excited to learn that Lauren Renford and Fly Zaya, cherished friends of the Office of Attorney General, will be speaking on tonight's panel. Both Lauren and Zaya have been engaged in this work for some time and know how to use their talent for organizing and music to make a difference. I'm sure that many of you in the audience today know that youth have a long history of activism in the United States. In fact, many of the major social movements that have advanced our country were led by young people. This included challenging segregation and fighting for civil rights through lunch counter sit-ins, walking out of schools, organizing integrated bus rides throughout the South, marching, and more. This has also included protesting several wars, occupying Wall Street, and standing up and marching for Black lives, immigrants, indigenous peoples, LGBTQ+ people, women, and more, including the fight for gun safety. And just this year, we've seen district youth protest COVID protocols they didn't think were safe enough, as the students did at Benjamin Banneker High School, and advocate for stronger gun control measures, as we saw with the March for Our Lives. Many of us in this audience also know that activism can take various forms, including art, music, poetry, and writing. A tangible example of this was my office's Artists v. Hate Challenge, an effort where we engaged Jordan's skill and talent and knowledge of the art community to empower DC youth to stand up against hate, promote social justice, and inspire change through art. Let me highlight just one of the winners, Donna. Donna created a painting of a young girl with headphones, listening to music, tuning out the world behind her that is burning down, shown here. When asked about what inspired her art, she said that she wanted to make sure traumatizing events like shootings, robberies, and murders were not normalized, and that she hoped her work would inspire her peers to be loud about what they're passionate about. I couldn't agree more, and I encourage all the youth out there to continue to use your voice and creative outlets to speak up and speak out, to express your hopes, dreams, goals, and your fears, and to continue to find courage through the power of the pen, the pencil, the microphone, and the paintbrush. As Barack Obama once noted during a virtual town hall, Martin Luther King Jr., Cesar Chavez, Malcolm X were all young when they became involved in their causes, and boy did they have a necessary impact on our society. And like them, I believe that all of you here today will be the leaders of the next great wave of change. Thank you, Jordan, for bringing us together for this important conversation and your continued commitment to this work. And thank you to the young people leading tonight's discussion. We need your talent, your voices, and your courage.
Wow. It's pretty amazing to have the support of the Attorney General and such wonderful words. So thank you to Attorney General Carl Racine, as well as his staff, in particular, Abby Wilhelm and Lauren Massey for helping us out with that. So we really appreciate that. I want to dive into our conversation tonight, and we're going to start by focusing on Fly Zaya. She's our first person that we're going to kind of talk to for a second, and then we're going to engage each person, and then we'll engage in a larger conversation with the entire panel. So hello, Fly Zaya. We are going to, before we start, I said we were going to start now, but we're actually going to watch one more video, and this one's of you. This is part from Fly Zaya's music video, Dear DC. So we are going to watch just a short clip of that, and then we'll talk to Fly Zaya about what it means.
Dear DC, this is a letter from Z. I'm a witness. I can see what's going on. I hope you listen, cause I'ma put it in my songs. I know the difference between what's right and what's wrong. This is business. We've been fighting for too long, man. What is this? I used to consider it my home. You left me stranded. Now I'm feeling all alone and abandoned from all the hate that you shown single-handed. Now you got me in the zone and it's candid. You can hear it in my tone, I'm demanding that you turn every soul misunderstanding, causing hate to be thrown up on my branding, and it hurts to the bone. Dear DC, dear DC, this is a letter from Z. Yeah, dear DC.
All right, Fly Zaya, amazing.
Thank you.
So talk to us, Zaya, about first of all, what that music video means. Tell us the story behind Dear DC.
So the story behind Dear DC was me and my family, well, on election night, me and my family went to Black Lives Matter Plaza, and I was supposed to perform on a go-go truck. But before I was about to perform, the police started pushing and shoving the crowd for no reason. And my dad had got arrested, and my mom, we all got separated. It was me and my little sister. My mom was somewhere, and my dad was on the ground being tackled by police. And so the story behind that was just, I wanted to make a change. And in like the last verse, if you listen to the whole song, it was talking about what happened. Just like how I want to change the world and make the world a better place with my music. Yeah.
All right, so everybody be sure to go to YouTube and check out the full song so you can hear that last. See, Isaiah, what I did there was I made a teaser, so now everybody has to go and get you some views, you know? So, so Zaya, talk to me about, I mean, you are clearly the youngest person on this panel, right? And I would say maybe the youngest person that I've ever worked with on a panel. That's pretty cool. What does it mean to be a young artist in DC? What does that mean for you? And what's your experience been like?
First, I feel like it's really cool because like I'm always like the youngest in everything I do. Like people usually like when they call my name out on stage, people think I'm going to be like this grown up, and then I come out on stage, I'm a child. But like, I feel like it's really cool. I think it's important to be a youth in DC because like grown-ups don't really listen. They don't listen. They think we don't have anything to say when we do. And I encourage all the youth in DC to keep doing what they're doing, speak up and tell your story, and also tell other people's stories when they can't. And also encourage them so they can tell their own stories, and just keep on pushing, keep on moving, and keep on doing what you're doing.
What inspiring words. Thank you so much, Isaiah. I'm so excited to talk to you a little more in the larger conversation. I want to move now to Jade Jones. Hello, Jade. How are you?
Hello. How's it going?
Great. So Jade is an actress, performer, singer, rapper. You do it all. Being a fellow theater community member, I have seen Jade's work and they are amazing in all senses and all formats and all artistic mediums. We are going to watch a quick clip of Jade, not in Beauty and the Beast, because we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, I remembered in my own personal memory in 2020 seeing Jade performing at a protest in the Black Lives Matter movement of the summer of 2020. So I found this video on Facebook. So we're literally going to watch the Facebook video. So let me get that pulled up, and then we'll talk a little bit about your experience with being an actor in DC and how that's different than being an actor in any other city in the world. So here is this video.
Every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing.
Okay, and again, I'm just giving a teaser. Now everybody's going to want to listen to all your music, Jade. That was wonderful. First off, just tell us about that experience, because from the echo and the number of people I saw, I mean, how many people were there, and what was that moment for you?
That was crazy. I mean, I think like that entire summer is going to be something that we remember for the rest of our lives, and we tell our children about, and you know, something that's going to be in history books. And the thing is that like it was universal, right? It was like country, not just countrywide, but international. People were standing up against violence against Black people. And you know, we were all, it also happened at such a weird time when nobody was working, you know what I mean? Nobody that I knew was working, everybody else that was working was either, you know, remotely or, so it happened at a time that we had nothing else to do but speak our minds. And so I lived in DC at the time. And so I was always going to protest because I feel like that's what, you know, if you live in DC, it's kind of your civic duty to, you know, do that. And I went to this protest at the Capitol, and they had a microphone, and they had been playing songs that, like, you know, encouraging songs that we all knew. And whenever music comes on, I just have to sing. So I was singing and they overheard me and they were like, "Will you sing the Black National Anthem?" And I was like, "Well, you know, I don't know the word. Of course I know it, but I don't know the words offhand." And that was honestly really embarrassing to me. And I thought, why do I know the words to the national anthem that I feel doesn't pertain to me and not know the words to the Black National Anthem? But anyway, all that to say is, you know, luckily I had my phone on me and brought it up. And even though I didn't know the words, it was still like a really, you know, powerful moment for everybody involved.
Yeah, you know, that summer was definitely something that we will all remember, I think, for a long time, especially those of us who were in DC and saw, you know, what was happening at the White House, and then what was happening in our own streets and our entire city, you know, getting shut down at different periods, and a lot of collective trauma there. Meanwhile, also having the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, which I would say that there was a racial justice pandemic as well, coinciding.
Yeah. Right.
So talk to me a little bit about your role in Beauty and the Beast, and what that means for you as a queer Black artist to get to have this national platform. And of course, locals are coming to the show, but we get a lot of visitors to our theater scene in DC as well. So what was that like for you to have that representation on stage?
It was great. It was awesome. I first of all never pictured playing a lead in a show at all. And the thing is like, I know that a lot of people, like, that's a lot of people's dream, but it was really never my dream because I didn't feel like it was attainable. I didn't feel like there were any like lead roles written for me. So I was very content playing like the sidekick. And also, you know, for me, my version of success is just being happy. So even if I'm in, you know, a play at a small garage theater, you know, as long as I'm happy doing what I love, it doesn't matter the size of the role or the recognition. And that's kind of how it was with Beauty and the Beast. It's like a lot of people saw it for what it was, which was a big deal. But for me, it took a while for it to hit me that people were responding so much to seeing themselves represented on stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, Jade. We're going to talk to you more in a minute. And Jade has a story about singing the national anthem, back to that, national anthem, at a baseball game in St. Louis. So we'll ask Jade about that in a few minutes. But I want to move now to Jonathan B. Tucker. And Jonathan is on this panel because he has a very important experience to share with us, and that is the role of an adult ally or a teaching artist. Now, I would, you know, depending on our definition of youth, you might even fall into the young people category, you know what I mean? But I think for the work that you do as a fellow teaching artist as well, I would love to know your perspective on this and really why you do what you do.
Got you. My perspective on what exactly? Like just
your perspective on youth voice and why you feel that, you know, it's your mission to empower young people through poetry.
I love what Flyzaya said about grown-ups just don't listen. And so I feel like that's like a great starting point for the why, is there is a power differential. And we have to recognize that. And so young people, they recognize it their whole life, and they have a strong sense of justice. And they've constantly been told that their views aren't going to be heard, that they have to follow these rules, they have to do it the way it's always been done. And we know that's one of the most destructive things, to only do things because that's the way that they've been done. And so there's a lot of potential for that voice to rise up and to change things and to imagine new futures and the futures that we need now. And we find ourselves in this moment where current ways of living are not working. They have not been working for a long time for most people, and we just let it go. And so, like we were talking about the summer of 2020, like the ability to imagine a world without the police, right? We need artists for this. We need young people for this, to remind us that just because this is the way it's been done, it doesn't have to be the way that we continue to organize ourselves. We don't have to live with this type of state violence. And so I think part of the need is for our own individual healing and for our own coming into ourselves and growing up and finding out who am I and who am I in this world. But then part of it is for our collective healing as well. And that ability to be able to speak up, to be able to use the creative powers that we have and to expand our creativity and connect all the different types of arts and ways of expression, so that we can imagine and create that world that we want to live in. Yeah, it felt like an obligation to be a part of that and to continue making that available.
Absolutely. I love your use of imagining. I think so often we're told in kindergarten to imagine, use our imagination. And then at some point we're told to stop using it, right? And I think that could solve a lot of our problems if we kept using our imagination into adulthood. And I want to know what kind of challenges you've faced in terms of young people and what you hear from them in terms of like, my voice isn't being heard, and how you kind of use your art to buck up against that.
Yeah. The first thing that makes me think of is the quote, I don't remember off the top of my head who said it, but the first way we give up our power is by assuming that we don't have any. And I think that's often the thing that we hear from young people, is like, they just didn't know that they could do XYZ. We didn't know that we could do this. And so that's like the first thing, is the recognition of where the power lies, and that we have power in our voice. We have power when we unify, when we have a collective and we're organized. The challenges are many. I think one of the main challenges we face is that the field of teaching artistry is not respected or as lucrative or sustainable as it would need to be. And so a lot of people are putting sweat equity into organizations. They're putting in lots of extra time and extra hours and volunteer hours. And it doesn't need to be that way. We should value it for what it is. Teachers in general just don't get paid enough. Teachers need to be paid more, and it goes the same for teaching artists. And the institutions that we have are often passion projects. They're often not well funded, and so there's a structural issue about how much we're valuing these roles, and that provides opportunities for us to create these roles in other places, and to bring out these other opportunities, to bring up new leaders, and to inspire the young people to then become leaders, inspiring the next young people to constantly be feeding it. And that's the thing. It's a marathon. It's a long haul movement that we're in. And so youth voice is necessary to continue it.
Absolutely. Well, snaps to all that. Especially, I mean, as a teaching artist myself, I encourage everybody in this region, if you're a teaching artist, to check out the Mid-Atlantic Teaching Artists Guild. They are our regional kind of hub for teaching artists, but also the Teaching Artists Guild, or TAG, which is a unifying organization doing exactly what you're talking about, Jonathan. Is we have, and it's based in kind of these pedagogies of youth empowerment or youth agency, right? And speaking to the needs of young people through the arts. And so I really appreciate you bringing that into the conversation.
No doubt.
So thank you, Jonathan. And now we're going to talk to Lauren for a minute. Lauren Renford, you know, so we saw a clip of you talking about your mural. And I want you to talk about if you identify as an artist or not. You might be the one person on the panel that isn't really practicing art necessarily, but you felt the need to use art for change. So talk to me a little bit about that and why you chose a mural of all things to get your message across.
That is a great question. I am not an artist at all. I wish I had some of the talents that my counterparts on the call with us today have. But I just remember losing my boyfriend Zaire and my classmate Paris and feeling extremely stuck, and rightfully so. But it was really the supports that I had that helped me move through that grief. And I remember feeling extremely defeated at the time, but also super duper inspired. People ask me this, and all I can really say is that I literally was laying in bed. It may have been a day or two after Zaire's funeral, and I thought someone should memorialize Zaire at the moment, because only Zaire had passed away, but in a beautiful way that encompassed his life and his values, and what he did for the city. So I thought there was nothing better to do that through the medium of art, which is interesting because I have no artistic skill, but I remember reaching out to some of my friends who are talented in that way, and then immediately embracing the idea. I did a petition like the next day that took off immediately. So really being able to intersect social justice, which is my passion, with art, and make something beautiful that now is a space of healing. And I really wanted it to be a conversation starter. And even now people go to the mural to celebrate the birthdays of their loved ones, just as a space for inspiration. And we're also now used as a learning tool. We built a whole curriculum around every story on the mural, because I think they all represent a little piece of us and a little piece of the city.
Wow. That is art in action right there. And I can't thank you enough for your commitment. I know you had to raise so much money, and you started an organization, and as someone who commissions artists sometimes, and you are an artist, absolutely. Jimmy from Community just said that you are an artist, and you're definitely very creative because you chose to do a mural, which I think is such a great medium for the message you're trying to get across. So I want to, and you said it was a conversation starter. It really is. I would love to now open the conversation up to everyone on our panel. And kind of the question that I asked Lauren. This is a question that I think we as artists don't always think about, but I want you to think about it and try to kind of parse out why art? Why art? Why do you all choose to use art for social justice, or to do something in your community, or to make meaning? Why art? Why not, I don't know, business, or why not, investing in the real estate market? Like, I don't know, right? There are so many ways that we could maybe do something to change lives. Why do you choose art? And why is it the most impactful way that you see in your world to make a difference? Yeah.
Well, I do think there are so many ways, but I think that you're blessed with your gift, right?
Oh,
and so I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not a math teacher or anything like that. But, I was blessed with a voice, and I was blessed with an ability to relate to people. And so that is how I use
I know
my gift, because I could just be like an R&B singer, right? Throw it away. But that's how I use what I was born with and what I was blessed with. So
I would say along those lines, it's one of many tools that we use, and it's just the one we're best at. And so, yeah, people know us for it and they see that more. But in terms of our overall contributions, I hope that, we're all multifaceted and we have many ways to contribute. And so in addition to just being up at the show, we often say this in the poetry world. It's like, yeah, it's great you're up on stage and you're saying all these nice things, but what do you do when you get off the stage? How are you living your life when you get off the stage? Because that's equally important.
Okay. What do you mean? You're making me notebook. Shush.
Flyzaya, I think you're unmuted. Did you want to say something, or were you just?
Yes, music is like, for me, music is like the language of how we speak and how we want to express our feelings. And that's my art, and I like expressing my feelings that way, and how I feel being like a youth in this time right now with COVID and all the shootings happening and stuff like that. Like, I like to express my feelings with music.
Yeah, I love it. As an artist, I agree with all of you. You just can't. What's that?
Sorry, I was going to say, Zaya brings up an important point about joy, though. Like music, like it's not only dealing with all the pain and the suffering, but music and art is a natural way to bring joy and to heal at the same time.
Absolutely. And you can't escape it. Like if you're meant to do it, you just have to do it, as all of you have kind of said. So I want to shift a little bit and talk about this. We're in Washington, D.C., right? Not only a great community in what we call the District of Columbia, the district, but also this larger conversation that it's like the power center for the entire country. So what about this juxtaposition that, like, Jade, you were at like a national march and you sang the Black National Anthem, right? And so such a huge platform, or if you're in the news, you're like in the national news because you're in DC. But then at the same time, it's juxtaposed with having limited representation, not having votes in Congress, not having the agency to run our own city, right? Our budget is approved by Congress and we don't have votes, right? So it's this weird juxtaposition, right? That we're existing within those two things at the same time. Does anybody have any thoughts on that and how that complicates our discussion?
I did live in DC, but I was a Virginia resident.
So
I'm gonna mute myself.
I'll quickly say it absolutely does complicate the conversation a lot. I think I've been fortunate enough to work with people who have a bit more privilege than me and can leverage that in different ways. I think it's super important that even though we are the nation's capital and people may feel a certain ownness or that the city is also theirs in a way, to respect the culture that's already here and the fact that people have been living here for generations, and respect and uplift that. I think that when we have a national conversation about statehood is when things, when the ball will fully start rolling. But I think it's super important to be intentional about who you work with, and that also being a value of theirs is what I've learned.
Yeah, I would say DC is a very divided city, and there's a lot of very powerful people, but not everyone has access to the same spaces and to those same people. And so what I found, so when I was coaching the DC Youth Slam team, often they would want to hire the students to come and perform at different events and whatnot. And so we got to speak to and talk with and be at these fancy dinners with people at conferences that we wouldn't normally be invited to, or we wouldn't normally be asked to speak. And so I remember one time we were invited to a spot where there was a particular political leader going to be present there, and I talked to the students. I said, hey, if you want, we can turn this performance into a protest and not be invited back and maybe not get paid, but like it's your chance to like directly speak truth to power. Or if you want, we can just go ahead with the performance as you had it planned, and take the money and just, come back next year. And like, and I put it up to them and I said, I'll let you all decide, is this important enough? Like, I don't ever want to tell you all you can't stop and make it a protest. And so there were unique experiences like that where we do have sometimes the ability to use our art to bring us into rooms that we wouldn't otherwise be in, and to influence people in a certain way, or to get in front of them, or get in front of the cameras, or whatever it is.
I really love the point. I love what you just said, Jonathan. And I think the larger point here too is that like when people think Washington, D.C., like the National Mall is not Eckington. You know what I mean? Like the Capitol is not Anacostia. Like there are these divides, and we see that in play for sure. I want to shift a little bit and go back to that story, Jade, that we alluded to earlier. So you, for the audience, for everyone's knowledge, Jade is a performer who does travel and do shows in other cities. So tell us about what you're doing right now, where you are, and you had an opportunity to sing the national anthem. And tell us what happened. Tell us what you did.
So I right now I'm in New York. I am doing right when this is over, I start a Taylor Swift concert. It's not Taylor Swift, she's not gonna be here. But like we do like cover songs and stuff. So I'm at Sony Hall, right across from the theater that Hamilton's playing at. I just got back from St. Louis, which I fly back there tomorrow to start The Color Purple. When I was there for about 3 weeks, a couple weeks ago, and I was doing Mary Poppins, and I was asked to represent the cast at the Cardinals game in St. Louis, and sing the national anthem. And when I was asked, I was really excited because I've never sang it by myself. I've sang it at baseball games, but it's always been in a group. And I feel like every year the national anthem means something different to me. It's not my favorite song in the world, but the opportunity to sing it, I mean, you're looking at, Whitney Houston singing the national anthem, Marvin Gaye, at functions. And so as weird as it is to sing it in a time like this, I really, I was excited. I was. And then a couple days before I was supposed to go to the game was when Roe versus Wade was overturned. And I immediately thought, I can't do this. I can't sing the national anthem right now at a game in St. Louis, in a state that just banned abortions because they finally got the ability to. And so I was going to just not do it altogether. I was going to tell the powers that be that unfortunately it's not going to work out and I don't want to do it. But something said, Jade, you should still do it because it's important for Missouri, for the country, to see a queer Black individual representing our country, because we are the backbone of this country. And so I toyed with a couple things. I said, I'm not going to do it. And then I said, I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to go in there and just make a statement. And I was like, and just like you, Jonathan, it's like, I wanted to do that. I wanted to protest, but I also wanted to be invited back. You know what I mean? So how do you do that? How do you balance, not being disrespectful, but also not caring if you're disrespectful or not, because you have a message to get across, also being professional professional, being a creative, and this really being my livelihood. How do you? So came my oh towards the country when I on bucks that just regulates not my body, and I there they were saying doing. So I wore a vest. Then when it was time for me to sing, nobody knew what happened under my vest. And I took it from there so they couldn't do anything. I thought
I think we lost Jade. Luckily, though, I hope Jade is able to come back, but I found a video of Jade doing this. So I will describe it because we were just getting to the good part. Jade removed their shirt, and underneath was an orange shirt that referenced abortion, and I'm not sure exactly what it said, but I think it was like hands off my body or something like that. So I'm gonna share that clip with you so you can see it in action, and that will kind of describe it since Jay didn't get to fully. So here it is.
Singing of our national anthem. It's performed this evening by Jade Jones from Disney and Campbell McIntosh's Mary Poppins at the Muni, July 5th through the 13th.
Oh, sing, can you see?
I won't make you listen to the entire national anthem, but I just wanted you to see how Jade did that cool little costume change there on the field. So if Jade is able to come back and describe it a little for us again, that would be great. But to get back in the conversation, and I would like to get everybody back into this, what would be your advice? And Fly Zaya, I'm really looking at you to start this off. What would be your advice to a young person who says, you know, they would like to get involved and make change with art, to see something they want to be better in their community? What would be your first piece of advice for somebody?
Do it. Do it.
Do it.
If that's your dream and you want to do it and you want to conquer it and that's what you want to do to make a statement, do it. Like you can do it you can do it by yourself, with your family, with your friends. You can gather up some of your other friends, some other youth, and have them help also, just to encourage them to do their own thing too, and just showing them that they can do it too.
I love it. Fly Zaya, your words, your simplicity, you're just like to the point. I love it. Other thoughts on how, on what advice we would give young people who want to make a change in the community?
To Zaya's point, I'll add, don't let no's discourage you. I probably heard maybe 10 no's about the mural. I was told that my idea was too political, even though we paint murals of deceased celebrities all over the city. But you have to be confident in your idea and just, let the pieces fall where they may. And eventually you'll find someone who buys into your idea the same way you value it. So.
Building off that, of both those, I'll sort of say that part of it is like getting up and just doing it, but also working with your family or working with other people who you see doing something that you want to do. And so it's about finding whether it's a group or some example of, hey, that's something cool. Can you show me how to do X, Y, Z? Because learning to ask those questions about how to make a difference, how to get a mural passed and approved by the local ANC or whatever has to approve it, it really helps to have the guidance of someone else. And so you don't have to go it alone. It feels real daunting when you're trying to do it all by yourself. So having a team and having someone that you can look to and say, oh, that's something I want to do. I know that would have been real transformative for me in high school. I never knew about spoken word. I knew about poetry, but I didn't know about slam poetry and spoken word when I was in high school. I found out about it later, but it would have been great if I had an example to say, oh, I really like what they're doing. I want to do something like that.
Excellent. Hey, Jade, welcome back.
I'm so sorry.
No problem. So I found the video of you, so I showed that. But you cut off right about as you were talking about like what you physically did when you walked onto the field. So could you describe to us your orange shirt and what it said and that whole process?
Yeah, it said in big white letters, it was an orange shirt. So it was very eye-catching, but it said, regulate guns, not my body. And I thought they were going to show it on the Jumbotron, but they knew better. And so they only showed this on the Jumbotron, shoulders up. But then everywhere I walked, people got to see it. And, I got I didn't get any backlash to my face, which I don't know if that's because I'm an intimidating person or, but like everybody, even like older white cis men were like, you did a great job. Most of them didn't compliment my shirt, but did compliment that I did a good job. And you know what? I did a good job and read the message. Thank you. So yeah, it ended up being a really good night. I was so scared that entire day, just because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know how the theater was going to feel about me as their representative. I didn't know how the patrons of the baseball game were going to take it, the people that invited us, but everyone was very open and friendly about it. So,
yeah, great. Well, and the audience has all gotten to see it now. So I'm so glad we got the end of that story because we were worried. So to round us out in our last few minutes here, before we move to question and answer, I would love for each of you to provide a call to action. What is something that every person in this audience today, and even us, right? What's one thing that they can do today, tomorrow, this week, something in the immediate term that you would call on people to really do to support young artists, to support young activists, to support people in our community who are trying to make positive change. So whoever wants to go first, take a second to think on that. And what's your call to action for this session today?
Venmo your artists. Venmo your artists, Cash App your artists. We're working really hard, and you don't know how much of our own blood, sweat, tears, and cash goes in to our craft to be able to bring, patrons joy or escape or whatever you're looking for when you come to the theater or when you come to a concert. A lot of people think that because you're artists, and especially like artists that do a lot of work or travel for work or whatever, that, you're rolling in the money, and that's just not true at all. So honestly, the way to support artists is to directly, fund their art.
Yeah, I love that call to action. It's so funny because during the pandemic, it's not funny at all. During the pandemic, so many people were taking in so much art, and that's what got people through, TV shows or movies or watching, so many, listening to music, making music. It was art that helped people kind of survive the pandemic in many senses. So 100% I agree. Zaya, I saw you unmuted. Would you like to share your call to action?
Yes. Mine is just take power. Do what you love to do. Take power, take control. Like, if you get a chance to go on stage, just if you get a chance to, always like say what you feel. Always take control, take that chance of power and use it. And just keep doing what you're doing and never stop. Don't listen to what anybody says. Just keep on going.
And I would have to say that you're our best example of that, Fly Zaya, because that's exactly what you have done.
Yeah.
Nobody's telling you not to, you know, I mean, you aren't taking it from anybody, right? Because you're 10, right? 10 years old. I can't believe it. And you've already made such an impact. So my call to action would be more like Fly Zaya, you know? Thanks, Zaya. Lauren or Jonathan?
Yeah, I was going to say something real similar to Jade. I was going to say it a little bit differently, but basically resources. We need to be resourced, and everyone has something they can give. If it's not direct financial giving money, there's another way that you can provide resources and give power to the young artists to make their own decisions, not to give them something and say, do this, go and do some Eurocentric thing, like, you know, but to say, hey, you have decision-making power, you have resources to make those decisions with. Then you're going to really see that the blossoming, right? People need to be given that environment where they have that control to create as they see fit.
Lastly, I'll add, my call to action is always treat a loss in the city or an inequity to your neighbor as your own. My catalyst for my work was the death of my boyfriend and my classmate, but I think that to build community as a city, that we should all join forces and treat that like a personal loss. So
absolutely. Well, thank you all for your insights. We're going to have some time for Q&A now. So we have one question in the chat. I'd like to know what projects the panelists are working on now. What's next for them that we can look out for? So anybody want to jump in with your upcoming projects or anything you're working on right now?
So I'm writing a play.
Wow.
About the legends of hip hop and just the history of hip hop and where it came from.
That's amazing. Zaya, when can we be on the lookout? And also, do you have a name for it?
It's gonna be called Legend.
Okay.
Later on in like the year.
Okay. All right. We'll keep our eyes peeled. I'm excited to hear about this play. As a theater actor and director, I'm would love to get involved in some way in that production. That sounds great.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
All right. Anybody else have any upcoming projects they want to share?
I'll be doing The Color Purple at the Muni in St. Louis. I start that on Saturday, August, and then I will be reprising my role as Belle in Beauty and the Beast at Only Theater Center, Maryland, during the holiday season.
Awesome.
You can also follow me on Instagram at Liddy Official. I rap, and I have 2 albums on Spotify. So it's a pretty different side of what you're seeing right now. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Jade. Yes, so many fun things. I plan to see Beauty and the Beast. I know all of Lydia Official's big hits. So I'm a fan. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll mention a couple things. Recently, I've started working in addition to working with young people, teaching poetry to senior citizens with Alzheimer's and dementia. And so that's been my recent project this year, and my challenge, sort of growing my teaching artist skills, working with a much different population. Excuse me, but I still host open mics, and I still do shows, and I'm actually performing at a show at the Olney Theater in Maryland on August 11th, Olney Outdoors Festival. It's going to be lots of fun. Talam Acey, Rebecca Dupas, and myself and some other poets are going to be performing there. It's going to be great. But yeah, I host at Busboys and Poets here in DC, 450K location on the third Wednesday of each month. Yeah, but no other big, huge projects. I used to run a DC to South Africa exchange program. Since the pandemic, that's been on hold and hasn't really picked back up yet. So that might be coming back. It's called Azania to DC. You can check it out on my website, jonathanbtucker.com. Some amazing artists and interdisciplinary. So I'm hoping to get that going again sometime.
Awesome. Lauren, what are you up to these days?
I'm going into my last year of college, so trying to not get beat up by that.
That is a creative project in and of itself.
Yes,
having been there myself. So we have another question in the chat. I love this question. What local or national issues could benefit from more artistic amplification or attention? What local or national issues could benefit from more artistic amplification and attention? Anybody have thoughts on that?
I feel like every really, but I
Uh-oh.
Jade, I think you're cutting out again. I think we heard you say every issue.
I think we've lost Jade again. Well, in the meantime, doesn't seem that Jade's coming back. Go ahead, Zaya.
My mom had to explain it to me because I was like, what did he just say? But an issue that I feel like needs more attention is gun violence, because there's a lot of that going on. Like, kids are, like, the youth is being killed for no reason, stray bullets going everywhere. People are being killed for no reason that didn't even do anything. People are being shot. Just crazy. And I feel like it needs more attention because they don't really do anything about it. Like, I mean, they can put them in jail and stuff, but that's not going to stop the other people out there from doing the exact same thing. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll quickly add, I think the artistic piece is super important for awareness. So I would have to say right now, statehood, because I think a lot of people just don't even know about the issue. So I think that would be important.
Jonathan, anything to add?
I don't know. It's a tough question. Of course, a lot of issues, like the things the issues need are not art. They need solutions, and the solutions are normally not solely art based. And so the art, like Lauren was saying, is an amplification tool, a marketing, a way to get it out there. So that made me think of then some other issues that might be more personal, and therefore the art could then be more actually strategic in use. And so I'm thinking mental health. I think not only our nation but the world is going through some really difficult times with mental health, and art is very useful in self-healing and community healing around that. And the other thing that came up in my mind was domestic violence as well, because that's a big issue, and I guess art could play a role. I don't know why it came up for me, but it did, so I offered it.
Yeah, I think the first thing you said, I want to kind of highlight that because it's so true, right? This idea that as much as I love the arts and I am the number one, like, front of the line, like, I'm going to talk about the arts at every chance I get, but we know that the arts aren't going to cure cancer. The arts aren't going to save the world completely by themselves, right? So something I've been exploring is these intersections of arts and health, arts and transportation, arts and gun violence, arts and community development. How can we be of service, not necessarily being used, right? Because we want it to be authentic and the art to be art for doing art's sake, right? But also, how can it be a tool that is helpful in solving these community issues, right? And finding ways to integrate that into existing programs. You know, when we work with, as you're saying, mental health, I would not want it to just be an artist in the room, right? I also want someone there who's trained in mental health and maybe has a background in psychology. Right, so it's not that, in my opinion, it's not that the arts are going to just save everything, but that we can be one of the tools in the toolkit. And for too long, it's like, here's the toolkit and here's the arts, and we're just this side thing that kind of, yeah, we get thrown in when they want to like make something pretty or get some grant dollars or, you know, whatever it is. But why aren't we that integral piece of the puzzle? Instead of throwing a ton of money at the issue, which we need funding, of course, but why not integrate creativity into a social problem that then creates a solution, right? Any other thoughts on that before we move on?
I mean, I'll just add that racism and sexism are just always the things, and art is always a thing addressing both those. And our nation definitely needs more art addressing that, and including First Nations and our Native Americans and whatnot. Like, you know, we're still on stolen land, so trying to create justice on stolen land, you know, it becomes a difficult process, and so we have some unlearning to do and some needing of giving the land back. You know.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I actually, in the flurry of the beginning of our program, I forgot to do a land acknowledgement, which I had planned on doing. So we do want to honor the Anacostan and Piscataway peoples whose land we are on in the District of Columbia, and that is stolen land. So thank you for bringing that into the conversation. We have a question for Lauren. What did she learn from organizing people and resources for the mural? Any lessons learned that organizers should know? Question.
That is a great question. So it was a 2-year process from when I experienced my first loss to when the mural was actually painted and unveiled. And throughout that process, I was grieving, and I was going into 11th grade, where you're supposed to be solidifying what college you want to go to, and you're supposed to be taking SATs. So I was doing all of that in the midst of grief. So I really just learned how grief is not linear at all. But what gets you through that is the medium of doing something that other people can benefit from, which was a big part for me. And even now, like I've stated, people still go back to the mural and thank me for putting it together. So it really has become the space that I dreamt of. But yeah, so many lessons. I could go on all day, but mainly that grief can take you extremely far, even if it is not your own personal grief.
Excellent. And you have a great TED Talk. I encourage everyone to go on YouTube and check out Lauren Renford's TED Talk on grief and overcoming that grief. So really, really wonderful. I got to watch that in preparation for this event. So does anybody have anything else that they want to say for the good of the order in terms of our conversation today? Any final thoughts that you'd like to share before we wrap up today?
Do it.
I think you need a partnership with Nike, Saya, because I think they might use that slogan sometimes. So I think they love your enthusiasm. Any other final thoughts, panelists?
I guess what I'll add in is one of the benefits of the arts generally is helping us be able to be creative about how we see things and how we interact with the world. And so in terms of seeking justice and the ongoing movements for seeking justice, our creativity is going to play a role, and it's going to play a role throughout the rest of our lives. No matter how old you are, your ability to be creative and to come up with creative solutions and to see new futures is going to be more and more important and more vital. So the more that we can do to harness the creativity of ourselves and others, the better.
Absolutely. Lauren, anything to add? No, okay. I also just got word from Jade. Jade tried to log back in, but they could not. So the internet is not cooperating, and they're doing a show in 10 minutes on stage in New York City. So glad we had a little time with Jade, and we'll get the internet working next time. Hopefully we'll be in person. So I just want to close out our time together today by saying thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to our everyone who has helped organize this event. We are recording this event, so this will be archived and documented for future generations when they want to look back and understand what we were grappling with in 2022. A very complicated time. So I want to personally call out and thank Jimmy Watkins, who's on the call with us today, Tracy Mullery, and everyone at Humanities DC for their guidance and support as we created this program and organized it. Thank you, Jimmy. I'd like to thank the team at Joyful Signing and our two wonderful interpreters, ASL interpreters for tonight's event. I'd like to thank the DC Attorney General, Carl Racine, Abby Wilhelm, and Lauren Massey, and also the rest of the Office of the Attorney General for the video that we saw at the beginning and their support of the arts education and justice initiatives geared toward young people. We really, really are grateful to have an office that in its official capacity is really supporting young artists and creatives, and encouraging other young people to get involved in creative expressions of justice and of social change for their communities. Again, thank you to our panelists, Lauren Renford, Jonathan B. Tucker, Fly Zaya, and Jade Jones. And of course, thank you all, thank you audience for joining us tonight. This has been a very rich discussion. I know we could talk for hours about the many issues that come to play in this kind of niche topic. So I appreciate you, and this is just the beginning of the conversation. We're going to embrace non-closure today. We are not going to solve all the world's problems. We didn't solve them all. We just started the conversation. And so I hope that you will be a part of the continued conversation. My call to action will be to lift up the young people in the community who you see doing great work, whether that is with art, science, technology, innovation, public speaking, whatever it might be, not even just art, but creativity in general, and using their voice to make change. You know, something that I've heard from many teaching artists, and Jonathan, I'm sure you've heard this too. A lot of people will say in the education field, I always learn more from my students than they ever could learn from me. And I think that we have to remember that and kind of codify that young people have inherent wisdom and great ideas and are really powerful. And not only are they the leaders of tomorrow, they're the leaders of today. And we have to get out of the way, I think, as someone said earlier, we adults have to get out of the way and let young people thrive. So let's get out of the way and let Fly Zaya run for mayor of DC. I think we're ready.
Jordan, I want to add in a thank you for you. We have in the chat here. Thank you, Jordan, for bringing this group together and for organizing this.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's a passion, and we will continue this conversation. And I look forward to future panels.